Welcome to the Diary of a Hebrew Girl, a podcast hosted by Ariel. On this podcast, we discuss a multitude of topics ranging from healing, personal commentary, and the Hebrew experience while living in America. If you are ready for a cerebral ride, stay tuned for today's episode.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Diary of a Hebrew Girl. In today's episode, we will be discussing generational curses. I know it's been a long time coming, but I'm finally here with the first part of the series of generational curses. So to start the series off, I did want to give the definition of generational curses so that we can kind of understand the importance of why I'm speaking on this topic. I do believe that this topic is something that we need to discuss freely within our community. I feel like discussing generational curses, addressing the subject of that, is so important because it's usually the root to all of the dysfunction that we have in our lives. Sometimes we're born into dysfunction. We're born into curses. The Bible does say we're born into sin. We're born into curses that was on our family before we were even thought of, due to many reasons. So I do want to give the definition. My definition, I'm not saying this is the official definition of generational curses. This is my definition of generational curses, the way that I've understood it so that I can heal. I feel like a generational curse is a curse that's passed down from generation to generation of the same offense that leaves the family stagnant. That basically means a generational curse is something that has been embedded throughout the family, through maybe habits. It could be a habitual thing. It could be someone's dabbling within things that Yah has deemed as abominable. So because you've dabbled in those things, curses fall upon you and your family. So it could really mean a lot of different things, but a generational curse basically is something that's either habitual or spiritual, that has been passed down from generation to generation that caused the family to be stagnant, in my opinion. I think it is important to have a definition. You should have examples that you can see within your community to help you understand this topic better. I feel like those examples are teen pregnancy. Everyone has known someone to have had a child before they were the age of 18, whether you're black or white, regardless of your race, really, but especially in the black Hebrew community, we've seen teen pregnancies. We're probably a part of a family who had someone that had a teen pregnancy, or maybe you're the product of a teen pregnancy, your mother was a product of a teen pregnancy. So that's something that is a habitual thing, because a lot of times it doesn't just be one person. A lot of times it is the grandmother, or the grandmother was a teen mother. The mother became a teen mother. The mother's child became a teen mother. And you see that in shows like Teen Mom. Like Teen Mom is something that's glorifying this. But yes, you see that where the mom was a teen mom, and now she's saying, okay, I don't want my daughter to be a teen mom because I know how it is. It was very hard, and I don't want that for my child. So they do that. They say that to their child, but then their child turns around and does the same thing, because children watch us rather than hear the words that we say. And we all know that that's a fact. But so teen pregnancy, abuse. There's a lot of families where a family member abused someone in the family, which caused that person to become an abuser, and so on and so forth. So abuse is something that is usually the most prevalent, other than teen pregnancy, is closely like number 2 in terms of an example of a generational curse within a family and something that's so detrimental to a family. If someone has sexually abused someone, it causes a lot of issues. Number 1, the mental health of the child that has been sexually abused, the mental health of the person who felt that it was okay to sexually abuse a child. You're also looking at secrets. People are keeping secrets, and secrets are cancerous to a family. You're looking at a lot of different things that abuse perpetuates within a family that brings upon a curse that makes that family become stagnant. You think of mental abuse. You think of having maybe a narcissistic parent or something of that nature, or having a family member who will basically abuse you mentally by saying, oh, well, you've done this, so because you did this, I'm going to tell on you. They use blackmail. Sometimes family members use blackmail. Family use religion as a abuse mechanism, that if you're not a part of this religion or whatever the case may be, we're going to shun you from the family. That's why religion in general is cancerous to a family, because it's not real. The reality of a relationship with Yah is what we should be trying to do, not push religion on our children and different things like that. We should be teaching them how to foster a relationship with Yah instead of trying to push religion. That causes the stagnation of a family. That causes the destruction of a family. You also think of like physical abuse. A father beat a child's mother, and then the son grows up and he beats his wife. His sons see him, and so on and so forth. That physical abuse leaves anger and frustration in the heart of the child, which then they perpetuate that within their lives, and they bring that into the lives of their children as well. And that's a generational curse. Physical abuse is a generational curse. You was slapped down by your mama, so you felt like being slapped down was something that was normal. So you slapped down your children. Your children then grow up angry, and they do the same thing to their children, unless someone is saved by Yah's grace and figures out a way to stop that and end that curse, within that family. Another example, I said religion, but also spiritual abuse. That's something that's not talked about, is not brought up usually in a lot of circles and a lot of families, is the concept of spiritual abuse. If as a mother and a father, your job is to lead your child to Yah, to the Most High, to salvation. That's your job. Regardless of what the world says, your job is to spiritually guide your child. If you're not doing that properly, that's a form of spiritual abuse. You're not telling them the proper way to cope and deal with things. You're not teaching them by being a structural person, a person of discipline, how to live pleasingly unto Yah. That's spiritual abuse, because if that's not perpetuated within the family is stagnated. That's how poverty comes into play. That's how laziness comes into play. If there's no discipline within the family, and discipline comes from being spiritually aligned with Yah. You have to be spiritually aligned with Yah to know discipline. And that's something that we can discuss later in a different topic. But I think that spiritual abuse is just as severe as sexual abuse, as mental abuse. And then another example of a generational curse that falls upon parents, that falls upon people and families, is addiction. You could be addicted to a lot. You can be addicted. I'm sorry, y'all. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm getting stumbled over my words. But you can be addicted to a lot of different things. People are addicted to, families are addicted to food. You see a lot of overweight people and overweight families because it's a habitual thing. They've lived their whole life eating fried chicken and pork chops and all this different stuff. And so that's the only thing you know how to cook. That's the only thing that when you move out on your own, that's the only thing you know how to cook. That's the thing that you go to. So you perpetuated this from your family, a life of bad food habits, and then now you're teaching your children bad food habits, and they're going to teach their children. Somebody has to cancel this curse. It's a curse in our communities, in Black communities. This is a curse. Drugs, of course. Drugs is a big issue within the Black community. And it's a part of the generational curse. A lot of times drugs is a coping mechanism for trauma, and trauma is induced usually because of a generational curse that has not been fought against, has not been prayed over, has not been cast down. And so now you're passing on incorrect healing mechanisms to your family, i.e. drugs, i.e., food, alcohol, different things of that nature. Also, something that I've learned recently in terms of addiction is the addiction to love. And I think that's something that I'm going to discuss in a whole nother episode, that it could get its own pure episode, the addiction of love. That is a family thing. It could be habitual. It is spiritual. It's a family thing. It's passed down. And a lot of us have seen that within our families, where maybe your mother was a single mother, so she had all these different boyfriends and all that kind of stuff. And it's an addiction to love. And then you grow up and you think that you can recycle men like it's a revolving door, like they're revolving doors. You can just go through men like that. And that's not the way you're supposed to be in terms of a woman. As a man, you can't just go through women and think that you're going to be able to sustain a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship. You don't have the tools. That's a generational curse. Because if you don't have the tools to be in a healthy relationship, how do we foster healthy relationships in the Hebrew community if we don't have the tools? If we've been generation upon generation upon generation of unhealthy relationships, that is a curse. I'm going to talk about that more. That is something that has to be discussed. But we look at the examples of generational curses within the Black community. We have to talk about poverty. Poverty is an example, but it's also a consequence of generational curses within the Black community. To me, poverty is a mindset. It has a lot to do with your habits. It's a very habitual, it's very spiritual. All of these are habitual, it's spiritual. I'm going to continue to say that throughout this whole thing because it's so prevalent. Poverty is what you do with your time. If you waste your time, you're wasting money, and in turn, you are impoverished. And I'm sorry. The reason why people are not in poverty is because someone has spent their time that Yah has given all of us. He's given us 24 hours, and I'm so grateful for it. He's given us 24 hours to change, to be better, to come out of poverty if you are impoverished. If you're not impoverished, to keep your wealth, to be a good steward of your money, to give back to those in need. Or if you are impoverished, to pull up your bootstraps and get to work. It's a generational curse if everybody in your family is impoverished because you did not teach your children marketable tools that will help them to produce money and to produce wealth and to create wealth within your family. That is a generational curse. And that's something that in our communities we do not talk about. We don't talk about how the lack of tools that was passed down from generation to generation has caused us to be impoverished. If you're in a family full of entrepreneurs, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be talking to you about how to become an entrepreneur. You're going to see examples of how to be an entrepreneur. If you're in a family of people who rely on welfare or who rely on, low paying jobs, low paying income, not necessarily going to college, but we don't have any trades in our community. We do have trades, but we're not pushing trades in our community. And I think Kwame Brown said this recently. I'm going on a different kind of tangent here, but Kwame Brown did make this very clear that we don't promote trades in our communities, where our sons can be making $300 an hour in a trade, but we're promoting them going to college making $20 an hour, $30 an hour. You're doing good coming out of college, getting a job that you're making $30 an hour. Unfortunately, in today's society, everybody's going to college, so that requirement is not doing anything anymore. It takes multiple degrees for us to feel like we are actually going to be making money substantial to the time that we spend in these colleges, where we're not promoting trades. That is a form of a generational curse. We're not teaching our children the tools that they need to produce wealth within our families. Another thing, and that a lot of people don't talk about, is that in these white families, in these white communities, they believe in the concept of life insurance. And I learned this on Earn Your Leisure, which I think I've talked about Earn Your Leisure before. I think it's an amazing platform. But on Your Leisure, it was someone, and they were talking about how, in white families, they put life insurance on the oldest person in the family. Not saying that they want them to die or anything like that, but they know that eventually, the way life goes, you may pass. And these life insurance policies are for $100,000 to $200,000, just depending. And everyone in the family kind of pays towards that pot. So, unfortunately, when the reality of death occurs to that older person in the family, you're building wealth because you're getting this money from something that is a part of nature. You know what I mean? That's how they build their wealth. And I may not be explaining it, very eloquently, but they build wealth that way. We as a community, we don't talk about those things. We don't want to bring that up. So when those things happen, they're detrimental to our families, in terms of, pain, but also financially, and that is a part of a generational curse. I know I brought up welfare, but the welfare abuse is a generational curse. If you watch Big Mama collect a check from the government every month for 20 years, you never seen her go to work. All you see was her watching TV, sitting down, watching TV, watching her stories, talking on the phone to her friends every day since you've been knowing Big Mama, and she's never worked, and she's only collected a check from the welfare office and food stamps and stuff like that. You're going to think that that's normal. You're going to think that I'm going to do that as well. That's a comfortable life. I don't want more than what Big Mama got. Big Mama got a roof over her head. She got food. She cool. I want to live like that. That is a generational curse. That is keeping a lot of black families stagnant. It's a lot of people who have great potential. They're very smart, very intelligent, and they are stuck in our hoods around America. I know this because I grew up in the hood. So I've seen families and I've seen people, smart men, black men, who are stuck in these poverty-stricken neighborhoods. They're stuck in this mindset. They feel like they have to slang dope and rob and be a scammer in order to get out of these communities because they seen Big Mama living off welfare their whole life. They don't want to live like Big Mama, but then the people that they know that have money is the drug dealers and the robbers and the scammers, so they follow their path. That is a generational curse. See, we have to know what generational curses look like in order to combat them. And I think that we see these patterns within our communities over and over and over, but we're not giving them the right titles. The titles is a generational curse. That's what part 2 is going to be about. Part 2, I will be going into more detail about that or whatever. I'm going to kind of give you a little prelude to part 2 at the end of this one so that you can kind of know what I'm going to be on. But yes, like, we're not talking about what generational curses really look like. What is a manifestation of a generational curse within your community? Like, yes, you look at your lives. Some of us, we're black, yes, we're Hebrew. Some of us lived a great life. You don't know poverty. You don't know abuse. You don't know teen pregnancy. You don't know addiction. You don't know welfare. You don't know these things because you lived a good life. Someone in your family canceled that curse. Or maybe that curse wasn't on you and your family. And so you have a leg up. But for majority of us that lived in the hood, in poverty, who've dealt with these curses, it's so incredibly important that we tackle it from the root. And that is another thing that I'm going to be discussing in part 2. We have to tackle these things in the spirit, and we have to tackle it at the root. And that's what I'm learning within my life. I can't think that I'm going to cancel these generational curses that's gone from generation to generation to generation without doing the spiritual work first. You do it in the spirit, and then it manifests into the physical, and then it manifests into, financial gain, or, gain within relationships, just gain around your life, and you're not stagnant. You're moving forward. You're growing. Things are changing. The family is getting stronger. They're becoming more wealthier. They're having things to pass down from generation to generation that's positive, that's going to make sure that the family lasts. See, these curses, they lead to death. The death of the family is the death of the legacy here on this land, on earth. So it's very incredibly important that somebody put in the work, the spiritual work, to cancel these curses. And if it's not you, you're going to leave that burden on your children. And what if you're not giving them the tools, then how they're going to do it? You know what I mean? You're getting this information, you're hearing this podcast because maybe you're the one who needs to put in the work. I was driving the other day and I was thinking, I was like, if it's not me, then who? If it's not me, then who? People in your family, whatever, if you're given the gift of understanding, of seeing what's coming up against your family, then it's about you. You got to do it. It's you and it's your job. So I'm going to talk about that in the next episode, part 2. So why, I guess now you're thinking like, why do we have these curses? Or where did these curses come from? Like, you told me the definition of the curses. You told me what some examples of the curses are in our communities. So why do we have this? Like, why is it on us so heavy within our communities? Yes, you see it in white communities and other communities, but it's not at large numbers like it is in the Hebrew, in the black community. Why? This is why. And if you are here on this podcast, then you probably know a little bit about this, but this is why. We broke Yah's covenant. Period, point blank. We broke Yah's covenant. In the Bible, go to Deuteronomy. It's like the 26th chapter, I believe. Read those consequences of breaking Yah's covenant. Once you read those consequences, think back on the examples that I just gave you on the black community. Think back on it and see if these examples don't coincide with what the consequences of what would happen if we broke Yah's covenant. Consequences of it. I didn't talk about the fact that we don't have black fathers in our community. I didn't bring that part up because that's something that's just oversaturated here. You can hear about that anywhere. That's something that we know. But that's a part of it. That's in that Deuteronomy 26. And I could read it to you guys one day. I don't have it open here, but that's a part of that Deuteronomy 26. We're not going to have fathers. The men will hate their women. The women will hate their children. And that's today. You see people fighting their mamas. You see people mamas fighting their children like some females on the street. We have that real bad in our community where black women are fighting their daughters in the street. People are fighting each other. They're in families in the street. That is new. They weren't doing that back in those days, but Yah said that's going to happen if you don't follow my commandments. If you don't do the things that I've told you to do, these things are going to fall upon you and your people. And that is what happened. So I definitely, if this is something that's interesting to you and you're like, what are you talking about? Read Deuteronomy 26. That's what opened my eyes. That's what made me realize that I'm a part of these Hebrew people that are in the Bible, that these people are my ancestors and that my life coincides with what these curses are within this Bible. It's clear as day. That's what opened my eyes to, and I was like, that makes sense. I went to church my whole life. I wasn't an avid churchgoer, but I would go with friends and different things like that. And I always known that I love Yah. I love quote unquote God or quote unquote Jesus. I always loved God or quote unquote Jesus, whatever, before, because I've seen what he's done in my life through my mother and through the struggles that we dealt with. We've made it this far, not because of our own and anything that we've done on ourselves, but simply because of quote unquote God. But everything else didn't make sense around it. Now that I understand who I am and my heritage and the fact that we broke a covenant with Yah and now these generational curses are falling upon us, life makes way more sense. And that's why I said it's at the core of healing. Understanding generational curses is at the core of healing, because now you understand why these curses are so prevalent on our people. It goes back from the Bible. It goes back from our forefathers. It goes all the way back. It's very, very important. And then a lot of times, quote unquote black people, we're like, oh, we came from Africa, da 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 da, like we're Africans. We are not Africans. You don't look like your African brother. I went to college with a lot of, African people. We don't look alike. Our cultures are different, not because we were born in America, but because we're different people. We don't look alike. We look different. We are not the same people. Yes, we all have brown skin. But your African Nigerian brother, you are not. If you are a African American, quote unquote, or whatever, or a Hebrew person, you and your brother do not look alike. And that's why it's so important to read the Bible. People be like, oh, the Bible ain't real, da da da. The Bible not real because you, in your mind, because you don't understand who you are. If you understand who you are, then you would know that the Bible is real. I just had a conversation with a guy the other day. If you knew who you were, you would 100% believe the Bible because it makes perfect sense. If you're a person of logic and you have good mental health and you're a person of logic, the Bible will make 100% truth facts to you. You wouldn't even question it because you have the mental capability to understand facts and logic, right? Right. Also, another thing that brings curses upon people's family is if one of your ancestors was involved in the occult. Now, I don't know if you guys know what the occult is. Google it. Just Google it real quick while you listen to this podcast and get a quick definition of what the occult is. A lot of you guys nowadays are doing witchcraft, things that are a part of the occult, so you probably have some sort of understanding of what it is. But the witchcraft that you guys are doing now that you think is cute with the stones and the different things and the sage and all that kind of stuff, y'all think that stuff is cute. That stuff is what your ancestors was doing that brought down those generational curses upon you guys' families, including my own. That witchcraft that y'all think is cute, that's giving y'all a further understanding of life, that you think is giving you a further understanding of life, is bringing down generational curses upon your family. Because Yah said in his word that anybody, soothsayers, people who delve in divination, witchcraft, astrology, all those demonic things that people do and they think is cute, you think being a witch is cute, those things are abominations to Yah, and Yah has said that really bad curses is going to fall upon your families because of your involvement in the occult. A big part of that is addiction. So for you guys who have a lot of addiction in your family, people are addicted to just different things in your family, and maybe because your ancestors was involved in the occult. Even biblical times, the reason why our people broke the covenant is because they were worshiping these false idols and doing this witchcraft in the land that Yah told us not to be doing these things. He told us don't do these things. If you do these things, then you go against my covenants. And they were doing these things. They were following these foreign women and these foreign people in our land. And they were worshiping and paying homage to their gods and not Yahweh. And then Yahweh said, okay, if that's the case, you have broken my covenant. Now all these curses are falling upon you. Look, y'all believe in all this darkness and all this witchcraft and stuff like that. Y'all believe in cursing and spells and stuff like that. This is the grand curse that we are under, that I'm speaking of today. See, Yah has all the power, and I've said this before on my podcast. Yah has all the power in the world. So curses come from Yah. Okay? Y'all think that witchcraft and stuff like that, curses come from Yah. And his curse is so strong because Yah's the only one that can break them. So who can break Yah's curse? Nobody. The only ones that can break Yah's curse is the people who the curse has fallen on, which is Hebrew people. And the only way we can break these curses is that we turn away from the wickedness and move forward and start doing the things that Yah has told us to do. This is why these curses are so heavy on our communities. It's deep. That's why it took me so long to bring this topic to you, because when Yah gave me the idea to talk about this, I had to go through more life. I had to live more. I had to see more things. I had to understand more in order to talk about this, because this is such a deep thing. It's the core of everyone's issues, these generational curses. So this is part 1, y'all. Part 2, like I said, I'm going to go into more detail on how to break these curses. I watched this amazing video on YouTube of this Kenyan rapper. And, he talks about witchcraft and the occult and, the curses that fall upon people because of their involvement in that. His wife is involved in that. So I'm going to bring some of the bring some of what they were talking about on how to break these curses within your life is very, very critical. Also changing the habits. Like I said previously, habitual things are a part of generational curses. Something that's just a habit to you can be a curse, can leave your family stagnated, and they cannot move because these are habits that has been passed on from generation to generation. Telling the truth about family secrets. Secrets are cancerous to a family. Secrets break apart families all the time. See, we don't understand why families are so important to your well-being. Families coming together can create a lot of wealth. We can help each other. We can raise each other's children. We can be there for each other. We can protect each other. A family, a clan, a community is way more powerful than one person, than two people, than three. A family is so important. That's why this world, this Babylonian society, America, is trying to shoot down, cut down, underline Satan. Let's just be honest. Let's go to the root of it. Satan and his cohorts are trying to cut down the black family is because they know how powerful the family is and how much progression the black community, the Hebrew community can have if we come together as families, if we rebuild our families. And so, and I'm going to talk about that more in another podcast, so just stay tuned for that. But yes, y'all, so this is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you so much for being patient with me, y'all. I know I was like, every week I'm gonna be releasing a podcast, that didn't happen. Got a lot of stuff going on. Like, you know, I'm living my life as well. You know, I have a child. I'm working like for the man full time. So, you know, when you work for the man, it squeezes out your creativity. So it's hard to work for the man and then have energy after that to have any sort of creativity. But I'm pushing forward. You know, I'm not going to allow those things to stop me and hinder me from what Yah has for me. I know that he doesn't have me working a 9 to 5 forever. So I got to put in energy. And that's why this topic is so important to me, because I'm also in this part of my life. Like, everything that I talk about on this podcast is a part of my journey, is what I'm learning in my journey that I feel like will be beneficial to someone else. I'm not above nobody. I'm trying to make it to the kingdom of Yah, just like people who are maybe listening to this podcast, or some people out there. Not everybody really don't believe in hell. Like, people don't believe that, you know, there's a hell and that you're going to burn for eternity if you don't turn away. Just because you don't believe in Yah don't mean he's not real. And just because you don't want to believe in hell don't mean hell is not a reality. And I don't want to play with it. So I'm just trying to get right. Am I right? And no, I'm Yah's working on me for real. Like, I'm not wrong, but I'm not 100% right like I need to be, you know, and y'all don't like halfway. So I'm on the journey as well, y'all. So I can, you know, I'm going to record and I'm going to post as much as I can. And I hope that this podcast is beneficial to people. I hope y'all have a great, blessed week. And I hope this has given you some sort of edification. It has inspired you to look into it and look into your family and what your family is dealing with individually. And so you know what you're really up against. But yes, y'all be blessed. Bye.
Be sure to follow Diary of a Hebrew Girl on Instagram for updates and additional content. Feel free to DM us if you want to discuss topics further. Shalom.